Christmas betrayal. Dad yells you are a burden. Leave exclamation mark until he realized I fund their entire life. Family drama explodes. I never thought my own family would turn on me. Not like this. Not on Christmas. But I guess that's what happens when people get used to taking you for granted. They start thinking you owe them. That everything you do for them is just the way things should be. And the second you stop, well, then you're the problem. My name is Noah. I'm 24 years old, and for the past few years, I've been the one holding my family together. Not that they ever acknowledged it. Growing up, we weren't rich, but we got by. My dad worked construction. My mom did part-time bookkeeping. We weren't drowning in money, but we weren't starving either. At least, not at first. Things changed when my dad hurt his back on the job a few years ago. He stopped working, said he was waiting on disability checks that never seemed to come. My mom picked up more hours, but even then, it wasn't enough. At first, I helped out because that's what family does. When I got my first job at 18, I gave them a little here and there, helped with groceries, covered the electric bill once in a while. But somehow, over the years, it became expected. The "can you help with this?" turned into "you need to pay this." And before I knew it, I was paying for almost everything. Rent, utilities, food, even my younger sister's school expenses. And the worst part? They acted like it was nothing. Not once did my dad say thank you. My mom just treated it like my responsibility. And my older brother, who, by the way, was 27 and still lived at home, never chipped in a single cent. If anything, he made fun of me for being too responsible. I kept telling myself it was temporary, that once my dad got his disability or my mom got a better job, things would go back to normal. But that day never came, and somewhere along the way, I stopped believing it would. Still, I didn't expect what happened on Christmas night. We were all gathered around the table. Me, my parents, my brother, and my 17-year-old sister Lily. Dinner was the usual spread: turkey, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole. My mom had always been big on Christmas dinner, insisting we keep traditions alive no matter how tight money was. For the first half of the meal, everything seemed normal. My dad was drinking. No surprise there. My brother was glued to his phone, occasionally making a sarcastic comment whenever my mom tried to start a conversation. Lily was scrolling through social media. Just another holiday in the family. Then somewhere between passing the stuffing and my dad pouring himself another glass of whiskey, the conversation shifted. "You know," my dad said, leaning back in his chair, "Noah's been living here in Renfrew for years now." I stopped mid-bite, my fork hovering over my plate. "What?" Mom nodded as if this was something they'd discussed before. "We've been talking, honey. You're 24 now. It's time you moved out and started your own life." I stared at them. "You can't be serious." My brother snorted. "Dude, you're way too old to still be living at home." I set my fork down carefully. "I pay to live here." My dad waved a hand dismissively. "That's not the point. A man your age shouldn't be living with his parents." I laughed. A short, humorless sound. "I cover the rent, the electricity, the internet, groceries, half of Lily's school fees, and I'm the one freeloading." Mom sighed, shaking her head like I was being dramatic. "We're not saying you don't help, Noah. But it's time for you to be independent. Your father and I think it's for the best." "For who?" I asked, my voice sharp. She didn't answer, and that's when it really hit me. They hadn't even thought this through. They were so used to me paying for everything that it hadn't occurred to them what would happen when I left. For years, I had sacrificed for them. Put my own wants, my own future on hold so they could have a roof over their heads. And now, they were tossing me out like I was nothing. Like I was the problem. My stomach twisted, not with sadness, not even with anger, just disbelief. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to stay calm. "All right," I said, "if that's what you want." Mom's expression softened like she thought I was finally seeing reason. "I know it's scary, sweetie, but this will be good for you. We can even help you look for a place." I almost laughed. Instead, I just nodded. "I'll start packing tomorrow." And for the first time that night, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. The next morning, I woke up early. Not because I wanted to, but because I barely slept. The conversation from last night kept playing in my head on an endless loop. The way my dad had leaned back in his chair like he was doing me a favor. The way my mom had spoken to me like I was a child who just didn't understand what was best for him. The way my brother had smirked, like this was all some big joke. But it wasn't a joke. They wanted me gone? Fine. I was gone. I grabbed a couple of duffel bags from my closet and started packing. Clothes first, the essentials, then my work laptop, important documents, anything valuable I didn't want to leave behind. I didn't have much in the way of furniture. Most of it belonged to them anyway. I had always put off getting my own place because I thought they needed me. Turns out, I just needed my money. By noon, I was nearly done. I was shoving the last of my things into a bag when I heard a knock on my door. It was Lily. She hovered in the doorway, arms crossed, shifting her weight from foot to foot. "You're really leaving?" I zipped my bag shut. "That's what they wanted." She chewed her lip, looking uncomfortable. "Mom said you'd calm down." I let out a short laugh. "She actually thinks this is me overreacting?" Lily didn't answer. She just stood there like she wasn't sure what to say. And for a brief second, I felt a pang of guilt. She was the only one I felt bad about leaving behind. She was still a kid, still stuck under the roof, but I couldn't stay for her. "Look," I said, softening my tone, "I'm not mad at you, okay? But I'm not staying where I'm not wanted." She nodded, but she looked away quickly like she didn't want me to see whatever expression was on her face. And then, without another word, she turned and walked off. I sighed and grabbed my bags. Time to go. The living room was empty when I came downstairs. For a second, I thought maybe I could just slip out without another conversation. But as I reached the door, my mom walked in from the kitchen. Her eyes flicked to my bags, and she hesitated. "You're really leaving now?" I stared at her. "You told me to." She frowned, like she didn't like hearing it put that way. "Well, I thought you'd take a little more time to figure things out." "No need. I already have a place I can stay." That wasn't entirely true. I had a few options: crashing with a friend, getting a short-term rental. I'd figure it out. What I wasn't going to do was stand here and let her guilt trip me into staying longer. My dad walked in next, scratching his stomach like this was just another lazy afternoon. "So, you're really doing this?" I didn't even bother answering. I just reached for the doorknob. That's when my mom spoke again. "Noah, before you go, we need to talk about the bills." I froze. Then I turned back slowly. "What?" "Well," she said, as if this was the most reasonable thing in the world. "I know you're moving out, but obviously we still need help with rent and utilities. We were thinking you could keep sending some money, at least for a little while." I just stared at her. I must have misheard. "You're kidding." She shook her head. "No, I'm serious. We can't afford everything on our own right now, and you've been helping for so long. It wouldn't be that different. You just be." I cut her off. "You kicked me out." "We asked you to move out," she corrected, like that made any difference. Dad sighed like I was the one being difficult. "Come on, kid, don't be selfish. We took care of you for years. Now it's your turn to help us." I felt my hands curl into fists. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They had no problem throwing me out. No problem telling me to leave like I was some kind of parasite. But the second they realized that also meant losing my money, now they wanted me to stick around just enough to keep paying their bills. Unbelievable. I took a deep breath. "No." Mom blinked. "No, no," I repeated. "I'm not paying for anything anymore. You made it clear I'm not part of this household, so I'm done." Silence. Then Dad scoffed. "Well, that's how you repay us." Mom looked genuinely offended. "We are your family, Noah." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "Funny," I said. "You didn't seem to care about that last night." And with that, I turned back to the door, opened it, and stepped outside. Behind me, my mom started yelling my name. My dad said something under his breath. My brother, who had been in the kitchen this whole time, muttered, "Guess he's really doing it." But I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I walked out the door, down the porch steps, and toward my car, gripping my bags a little tighter. I had no idea what came next, but for the first time in years, I knew one thing for sure. I was finally free. I drove away without looking back, my mind racing. I had no clear plan, but I knew one thing. I was never giving them another cent. The first night, I crashed at my friend Jason's place. He didn't ask many questions, just handed me a blanket, and told me to make myself at home. I spent that night scrolling through rental listings, realizing for the first time that I could actually afford my own place now that I wasn't footing the bill for an entire household. Within a week, I signed the lease on a small but comfortable apartment. It wasn't anything fancy, just a one-bedroom with old cabinets and slightly creaky floors, but it was mine. No one barging into my room unannounced, no passive-aggressive comments about what I should or shouldn't be spending my money on, just peace. I settled into a new routine, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was living instead of just surviving. Meanwhile, my family was struggling, and I knew it. I didn't reach out, but word got around. Jason's mom still talked to mine occasionally, and he relayed the updates to me without me even asking. Apparently, my dad had assumed I would cave and keep sending them money. When the first month rolled around and I didn't, the reality hit them hard. Rent was suddenly hundreds more than they had budgeted for. The internet bill, the electric bill, the car payments, things I had been covering for years were now their responsibility, and it wasn't going well. My mom picked up extra shifts at work. My dad started trying to sell some of his old junk, and my brother, who had always acted like my money didn't matter, suddenly had to start paying for his own gas instead of mooching off me. They were finally facing the consequences of their own choices, and I felt no guilt about it. As for me, I was thriving. My new place felt like freedom. I started decorating, picking out furniture I actually liked instead of making do with hand-me-downs. I could eat what I wanted, come and go as I pleased, and spend my paycheck on myself without feeling guilty. My stress levels dropped almost overnight. I didn't realize how tense I had been living with them until I was finally out. The best part? The overwhelming sense of relief every time I walked into my apartment knowing I didn't have to answer to anyone. No more manipulation. No more guilt trips. No more financial drain. I had built a life of my own, and for the first time in a long time, I was happy. But then a month later, my phone rang. It was my mom, and I had a feeling she wasn't calling just to check in. The phone rang late one afternoon as I was sitting on the couch flipping through channels. I had just gotten home from work, and the comfort of my new apartment had become a routine, a new normal I was learning to appreciate more each day. I had barely noticed the call at first. It was a number I didn't recognize, but I had learned to stop screening my calls out of some misplaced loyalty. My curiosity got the better of me, so I picked up. "Hello?" There was a pause followed by an all-too-familiar voice. "Noah, it's Mom." I sighed, not even trying to hide the frustration that bubbled up. "What is it, Mom?" She immediately went into her usual concerned mother act, but this time it was more strained than usual. "I just wanted to check in on you. I mean, it's been a few weeks, and I know you're doing fine, but we've been having some issues over here." I braced myself. I knew where this was going. "We've been struggling a little bit with the bills," she continued. "Things are tight. You know how much your dad is making, and I've had to pick up a few extra shifts, but it's still not enough. And, well, we just thought maybe you could help out a little, you know? It wouldn't have to be much." I leaned back in my chair, feeling the familiar heat rise in my chest. "I already told you, Mom. I'm done paying the bills. You kicked me out. You said I wasn't welcome here anymore. You didn't need me, remember?" There was a long silence on the other end, and I knew exactly what she was doing, waiting for me to crack, to give in, to feel guilty and start second-guessing myself. But I didn't. "I know. Noah, I know. But it's different now. Your dad and we didn't mean it. We were upset and you were upset, but now we're in this mess and you're the only one who can help us get out of it." I let out a harsh laugh, shaking my head. "I'm not going to help you. You made it clear that you didn't need me around, that I was a burden. You were fine with me paying your bills when I lived there, but now that I'm gone, you expect me to keep supporting you? No way." She huffed. "You don't understand, Noah. This isn't about that. This is about family. You're still our son, and family helps each other out when times are tough." I sat up straighter, clenching my jaw. "Yeah, family. Funny how that concept only seems to apply when you need something from me. When I needed help, I was invisible. Don't try to use that excuse now." "Look, Noah," she said, her voice dropping into a pleading tone. "We've tried everything, but without your contribution, we're going to lose the house. You can't expect us to just figure this out without you. It's your fault too. You have to help." My heart raced, and the anger started to flood in. "My fault? Are you serious? I'm not responsible for your poor decisions. I'm not responsible for your finances, Mom. You and Dad made your choices, and now you have to deal with the consequences. I'm begging you, please. You can't just leave us like this. We need you." The words stung. Not because I felt guilty, but because I realized how manipulative this all had become. I could feel the weight of their guilt, the desperate attempt to reel me back in. But I had drawn a line. They crossed it. There was no going back. I stayed silent for a moment. Then slowly, I spoke. "I can't help you. I won't. You wanted me gone, and now I'm gone. I'm sorry you're struggling, but that's not my problem." There was another long silence. I could hear the faint sound of her breathing, and then she hung up without saying another word. I sat there for a long time afterward, feeling a mixture of relief and guilt. I didn't want to feel guilty, but I couldn't help it. After everything that had happened, I knew I had made the right choice, but I still hated seeing them struggle. But I didn't give them any more of my time. I didn't call. I didn't go to visit, and I certainly didn't send any money. A few days later, I got a text from my dad. It was short. "Come home, Noah. We need to talk." I ignored it. That was when they started showing up. It was a Saturday when they showed up at my apartment. My mom and dad standing at my front door like they had every right to be there. My heart dropped when I saw them through the peephole. They hadn't called in advance, hadn't texted, or asked for a meeting. They just showed up. I opened the door slowly, trying to maintain composure. "What are you doing here?" I asked, trying to sound neutral, even though the anger was bubbling just beneath the surface. "We need to talk," my dad said, voice low and demanding. He was always the more stubborn one, the one who couldn't accept that things weren't going his way. "I told you. I don't want to talk to you. I stood firm in the doorway, blocking them from entering. You made it clear where I stand. I'm not going to keep bailing you out just because you didn't plan for the consequences of your actions. My mom, standing behind my dad, finally spoke up. Noah, this is ridiculous. We're family. You can't just leave us to fend for ourselves. And why not? I snapped. You didn't care about me when I was paying for everything. So why should I care about you now? Because you owe us. My dad's voice rose, more desperate now. We gave you everything. You didn't have to worry about bills. We let you live under our roof for all those years. And now you want to just walk away from all of it? You can't do that. You have to help us. You're not getting a penny from me. I stood my ground, not even moving an inch. They stood there, glaring at me for a long moment. The tension between us was palpable, a thick, suffocating wall of anger and hurt. And then my dad did something I hadn't expected. He stepped forward and pushed past me. Get out of the way, Noah. I didn't even try to stop him. The moment he crossed the threshold, I realized just how much he had assumed that he was still in control. He marched through my apartment like it was his own, looking around at everything with an air of entitlement. This place is a dump, he muttered under his breath. Get out of my apartment, I said through gritted teeth. But he didn't leave. Instead, he turned around, crossing his arms. You need to start acting like a responsible adult, Noah. You need to help us. You owe us. I felt my anger building up. I don't owe you anything. I'm done with this. My mom finally stepped forward, trying to soften the situation. Please, Noah. We're not asking for much. Just a little help with the bills, and we'll be fine. I looked at her, shaking my head in disbelief. You don't get it, do you? I'm not your backup plan. I'm not here to fix everything for you. I'm done. They stood there for a moment, silent and stunned as if they had never expected me to push back like this. The silence stretched out, and then I said the words that would make everything final. I don't want to see you again. And with that, I shut the door in their faces. It's been a few months since that day. Things have been surprisingly peaceful on my end. I've settled into a routine, work, my own space, my own bills. Honestly, I'm doing better than I ever thought I would. I feel free from the constant pressure I used to live under. As for my parents, things aren't going as smoothly for them. The bills are piling up, and they've had to make some serious sacrifices. They started reaching out to other relatives for help, but I don't know how much longer they can keep up the act that everything's fine. I've heard through the grapevine that my dad's been trying to get a second job, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. I'll admit, part of me feels bad seeing them struggle, but another part of me knows that this is the consequence of their own actions. They chose to kick me out, and now they're dealing with the fallout. I'm still sticking to my decision. No more handouts. No more taking care of their responsibilities. But I want to hear your thoughts. Did I do the right thing? Should I have helped them out just a little even after all they put me through? Or did I draw the line in the right place? I'm curious to hear what you all think.